Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, created and hosted by Scott Knudsen, to explore the crossroads of horses and business. Now here's your host, Scott Knudsen.
Hi, and welcome to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen. Thank you so much for joining us today. Whether you're listening to us on KCAA, the NBC affiliate out in California, or if you're watching our podcast on one of our many platforms, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much. So today we have a dear friend of mine, Keith Thane, is on the show. We met in Dillon, Montana about a year or so ago. Keith is a senior director of the Equine Protection Program for the Humane Society for the United States. Keith, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hi, Scott. Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to it ever since we were in Dillon together for the Montana Center for Horsemanship event. We were on the stage together, and I appreciate everything you do.
Thanks so much. Well, you did a great job moderating that panel, and I really enjoyed it. And I've been looking forward to getting together again with you virtually here for quite a while.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you. So where did it start for you with horses? Was it as a child, or when did your passion for the horse industry begin?
Yeah, it really was as a young teen, and I'm going to myself here, but it's over 40 years ago now. I've been in the horse industry for over 4 decades. But my junior high school had a riding program, an after-school riding program, and I got into riding and never looked back. I've been involved all that time, and not just pleasure riding, but as a judge, as a breeder of horses, owner, amateur trainer, and just have really enjoyed a long life in the horse industry.
Man, that's wonderful. It's amazing how fast time flies, when you're in the industry you love, and you turn around, you're like, where did they go? But you do so much. I can't wait to kind of unpack all that and go through it, because I know people are going to love hearing about it. So did you go to school for this, like at college, or where did you go to college?
No, I didn't go to school for equestrian sports or husbandry or anything. It's all been just learning through those decades, trial and error and learning from others in the industry. But I went to school at SUNY Albany in Albany, New York, for political science and history. And then I went on to get a master's degree in computer science at Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York. And I put that skill to work for several years, working in IT for Kaiser Permanente. But my passion being horses, I really wanted to find a way to make that my livelihood. And I think if you're doing something you love, it's not like work, right? So over the years, did get involved more in the horse industry. As I said, as a breeder and trainer, amateur owner trainer, and had a boarding stable for several years in Maryland, and had a great network of friends and fellow equestrians there that I still consider lifelong friends today. That's
so awesome. I love the part about being an entrepreneur too. When inside and outside the industry, and so for the audience, maybe what is. Are they similar, being inside and outside the industry? Because you did real estate, you do real estate, and you're an investor, and you're also in the equine. So how did you learn from each other, each one of the different groups, or how did you do that?
Well, real estate is a pretty specialized business, and and so I bought and sold some property, some horse farms. And eventually moved to Hawaii, which I know we're going to talk about, and had a horse farm here for several years. But, I think just learning from other peers in the industry about, breeding techniques and husbandry and things like that, you learn a lot over all those years, and getting to know so many different people. So, going to conferences, attending seminars, and now webinars, right?
Yeah,
those didn't exist when I first started, but a lot of information to be gained by those today.
Man, I love that, because you're outside the industry a little bit. In the teenage years, you found, I want to do that. And then you created your path, and I love that. And then within your own entrepreneur business, you found a way to stay in the horse business. So There's a lot of people that want to do that. I appreciate you saying that, because they might be in a job they don't like. And transitioning over is tough sometimes, so, but it can be done.
That's right. Well, and of course, I know we'll talk about this more, but I grew up in the Tennessee walking horse industry. So I saw a lot of abuses and things, and really became a passion of mine to try to remedy those things, to turn them around. And so working from within the industry and now in my current role, I think we've really made a lot of progress in protecting those horses and making sure that they're treated humanely.
I love that. So explain to the audience, what is a Tennessee walking horse?
Sure. Well, the walking horse is a breed that was formulated back in the 1900s, early 1900s. It was meant to carry plantation owners long distances, on their plantations down south. And they developed a breed that could do a 4-beat gait. It doesn't trot or pace, so it's not a lateral or diagonal. It's a 4-beat, so each leg moves independently. It creates a really smooth riding gait, and that's the first breed of horse that I fell in love with. It's the one that I've been involved with my entire life, really, primarily. And unfortunately, back in the mid 20th century, they started abusing the horses to try to get them to perform an unnatural gait for the show ring, which led actually to the passage of a federal law back in 1970 called the Horse Protection Act, that was intended to end the practice known as soaring. That's what we call the abuse that these horses suffer. So I've been involved in the formation of groups, national groups that were dedicated to the promotion and protection of the sound, what we call flat-shod, natural Tennessee walking horse. And, we've had a big show circuit at one point going, providing a place for people who wanted to have a level playing field and show their horses humanely and have camaraderie and not be breaking the law, right? And we created that. And, there are several show circuits like that today. So that was sort of a model for what is going on today.
Very cool, man. Very cool. You got to be proud looking back on that and making a difference within the industry for the horse, because we're all here because we love horses. We love business, but we love the horse, and that's got to make you feel great.
It really does. I mean, it's been very rewarding and gratifying to see the progress that we've made. We're not there yet. There's still abuses going on, and we've got some more work to do. But there's been great progress made. And the thing is, this is an issue that the entire horse industry cares about. The American Horse Council, USEF, just about every segment of the industry is with us on this and wants to see this end, because it doesn't just impact the walking horse breed. It impacts the whole horse industry. When people hear about abuses or cruelties, they don't want to be involved with something that allows that. And so that's why the horse industry really wants to help end this practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. American Horse Council does so many great things.
Yes.
They really do. They really do. So being an owner and a trainer, so there's people that love being an owner of a horse. Some people that want to be a trainer of a horse. What did you think was the most difficult?
That's a good question. I think, not coming from a professional training background, just learning the ropes, learning the techniques, and learning what's effective and what's not, and what's humane and what's not. And, with walking horses, they don't all just come out of their mamas doing that natural gait immediately. Sometimes they need some, guidance, and there's ways to do that humanely and bring out the best gait in them. So that was a learning experience, but I got pretty good at it over time. That's
awesome. That's awesome. And you also had a stable. So people, I guess, would rent space there, right, for their horse. So if you're not watching, that's pretty much what it is, correct?
Right. Well, we were lucky enough to live on a county park in Maryland and had some great riding trails. And we had a small place, but we had about 5 or 6 stalls for rent, and had a great group of people as boarders, and really enjoyed having them there. And that's a small business in and of itself, right? So you got to know
absolutely
not only zoning things and things like that, but just how to make it profitable.
Absolutely. So what is there's so many people that have that or want to do that because that's their passion, to have horses on the place and let it pay for itself. So one piece of advice you can give somebody that wants to do that or is doing that?
Liability insurance. Seriously.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You got to protect yourself.
Yeah, start with that's great. I mean, there's so many people that don't, and it's it kind of gets scary sometimes. So I agree with you. I agree with
I
you.
mean, accidents happen, but you can be held responsible for anything, even though some states have laws that say that, when you participate in an equestrian activity, there's no liability. That doesn't mean somebody can't sue you. And even if they don't win, you could still, rack up some legal fees. So
Absolutely.
I'm a strong proponent of liability insurance.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice. So doing everything you did in all your entrepreneur jobs, how did you find, or did they find you, the Humane Society of the United States?
Well, living close to Washington, D.C., I became sort of a grassroots advocate on the soaring issue and several other, horse protection issues, and would do some lobbying with what now are colleagues at HSUS, at the Humane Society of the United States, and learned that they were starting up an equine protection program. I applied for the job and got it. And
Awesome.
That was over 15 years ago, and I think we made a lot of progress, a lot of headway, and really grateful for the opportunity because they're a great organization. They do so much good, not just in advocacy, public policy, but rescue. And, we mentioned the ranch down in Texas, Black Beauty Ranch. That's one of the largest equine sanctuaries in the United States. So just an honor to be a part of them and be able to do good work for horses.
Absolutely. That's a cool story. It's so cool that you can office in Washington, D.C., but yet live in Hawaii.
Yes.
That's like everybody's dream right there. That's so cool.
I started doing this even before COVID. It's been about 6 years now. And over the years, our organization has become more disparate in terms of people being able to work where they want to, live where they want to live and work from there remotely. And COVID really did that for everybody, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're just ahead of it.
Very few people are going into our offices right now, and they'll return eventually. But it's just shown that with Zoom and internet connections, we can pretty much work from everywhere or anywhere we want. And I still make quite a few trips back to the mainland for conferences. I'm going to be going to the American Horse Publications Conference, which we're a sponsor of and have been for several years in May.
Another great group.
Back at that Dillon, Montana event in September, and a few other things throughout the year. So
there's a lot of there's still some travel involved for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, that was pretty non-existent during the first 18 months or so of COVID, but things have started to open up again, and
awesome.
Yeah, I'll be on the road, so to speak.
That's awesome, man. That's great. And it's always good, when you're there for some events and get to shake hands and say hello and in person. It makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to have a presence at Equine Affair in Columbus. I won't be there, but my colleague will be there, and awesome. A few other events throughout the year.
Scott will be right back with more.
Hi, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Today, we're going to talk about something I'm really passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. Those that don't, now you know I do. And we've been working on this for several months, and we wanted to get it just right. And we don't put our name on anything unless we feel 100% certain it's the best product we can get. And we've done it. I really believe we've done it. We've created a coffee line, 13 great flavors. I'm going to show you 3 of them. We have K-Cups in all 13 flavors. Here's a Jamaican Me Crazy. It's just a really great coffee. Everyone has great logos. It has a brand, the same brand that's on our horses, our trailers. That brand means something, and we wouldn't put it on here if it wasn't good coffee. We have whole bean. This is a great Honduran blend, and it's a whole bean coffee. We have whole bean in all 13 flavors. And then we have a ground coffee. This is a really great one. My wife and I really like this a lot, loved it. So we named it after our daughter, Haley's Blend. Everyone has the packaging and the logo of the show, our brand, and I hope you like it. I really believe you will. And we're going to have more flavors coming out soon. We're going to have the pumpkin spices, and then we're going to go to peppermint after that. And please send us your suggestions as well. You can find it at cowboyentrepreneur.shop. Think coffee shop. cowboyentrepreneur.shop. Thank you so much.
So what's your experience like with the Humane Society and being in your passion part of the Humane Society and the equine protection part? What's that like, waking up and just saying, I get to do what I love?
Well, as I said, it's really rewarding. I feel like we've made a lot of progress on a number of issues. We've still got a ways to go, but back in 2020, we were successful in getting the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act passed and signed into law by then President Trump. And it takes a lot to get federal laws passed, particularly animal protection laws, especially with everything else going on in the world, right, and in our country. Sure. So when you can get a major bill like that passed, it's very rewarding. And we've got a couple of other bills that we're working to get passed, and I know we will. We'll just stay at it until we do. Yeah. That horse racing bill is going to really, it has the potential to save a lot of equine lives by reining in the doping in the racing industry and putting oversight over that under one national entity rather than 38 different individual racing jurisdictions in the 38 states that have racing. So that's just one example of the progress that I think we've made. I mean, we did a huge project here in Hawaii, even before I lived here and before I moved here, to rescue over 600 feral donkeys that were at risk of being eradicated. And we're able to home all of them, most of them here in Hawaii, but some of them on the mainland as well. We had several donors that supported that project, and we flew a 747 livestock 747 flight with about 200 donkeys to California and rehomed them out there. So that was a really rewarding experience. Hands-on, feel good. You were saving a whole large herd of animals that could have been wiped out. So let's talk about that. That's such a cool story. So where was that in Hawaii? On the Big Island, there's a village called Waikoloa Village, and they actually own about, I guess, 10,000 or so acres that they hadn't developed yet, and they were leasing out to a cattle rancher. Well, on this land, there were also these 600 or so donkeys, and there was a drought that hit the Big Island of Hawaii, and there was consequently little forage, little water available, natural sources of water. And so the rancher was having to bring in hay and water for his cattle, and donkeys were competing with him, for the forage and water. And they were also breaking out of the fences and getting into roadways and getting hit and going onto the local golf course and grazing on the golf course. So something had to be done. And, they're trapping them and containing them, but it was just the population was growing even though the resources were shrinking. And so they contacted the Humane Society of the United States and said, we really would love to not have to do some lethal means of control. Can you help us? And so we put together a project where a local veterinarian, Brady Bergen, was instrumental in the project and helped us with the help of the rancher round up all those donkeys. And he by and large, he and a couple of veterinarians that flew in from California did a huge neuter effort to castrate all the males and check them all for lice and things like that, and then get them ready to be adopted. Put some handling on them, and it was about a 1.5 year long project, but in the end all those donkeys found great homes, and we didn't lose any of them. Oh, that's amazing. That's such a great story. So I'm trying to envision 200 donkeys on an airplane. What did y'all do special for that? How did you get them in there, and what was the premise? Well, there's a lot of livestock transport between Hawaii and particularly the Hawaii Island and the mainland, because we have one of the largest cattle ranches in the United States here on the Big Island, Parker Ranch. So there are planes that are equipped with crates and dividers for the shipment of cattle, and so they were pretty much set up for accepting these donkeys and flying. It was just one flight, but it was a full flight. Full flight. I love that. Yeah, I love you said the one of the largest cattle ranches. When people think of Hawaii, they don't think of that many donkeys and cattle ranches and such. It's really, really, really neat to hear that. And yeah, we have a lot of horses here. And a lot of horses. Yeah. A lot of good trainers to ride. So hopefully your viewers will think about coming to Hawaii and going on a riding trip. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the things the Humane Society and you in particular do. What can you go into maybe, let's talk about the miracle horse. Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Back in 2006, the state of Illinois passed a law that banned the slaughter of horses for human consumption, which essentially shut down one of the last remaining slaughter plants in the United States. Right. And at the time the law passed, of course, there were still horses in the pipeline. On the day that it went into effect, there were actually horses standing in the Cavell slaughter plant in DeKalb, Illinois. And so one of the shippers contacted us and said, I can't take these horses to slaughter and I can't afford to take them back to where they came from. Are you willing to take them off our hands? And we said, yeah. We worked out a deal with him and, paid for some of his expenses. And I think there was about 40 or 50 horses in his load. And we were able to, get our hands on them and gentle them. Some of them, unfortunately, had to be euthanized because they had been shipped long distances in these overcrowded trailers, which happens all too often still. But we were able to save almost all of them and find good homes for them. So I always say these were the last horses to walk into a slaughter plant in the United States and walk out alive.
Oh my!
And that's why we call them the miracle horses.
They absolutely are. And it's so cool that you were able to train them or work with them and then get them home. The majority of them. That's really cool.
Absolutely. And something else that we worked with Pat Parelli on back in 2009, we named him our Humane Horseman of the Year. This is an award we've been giving out every year since 2008. So he was one of our first ones. Very cool. But he worked with us to help change the perception of rescue horses as, being broken or unwanted or not usable, because we know that's not the case. A lot of times they just, fall into the wrong hands or they're neglected, but we know that most of them, vast majority of them, are good candidates for rehoming. They just need some time and handling and TLC. Right. So Pat invited us to be part of his tour stop in 2009. In each of those venues, we sought out a local horse rescue and asked them to provide an adoptable horse, one that maybe had a little handling and training, but also had some issues and needed some work. And at each of those tour stops, Pat made that horse sort of like the primary horse that he worked with. And each and every one of them got adopted by, great Corelli students and followers. So we really appreciated, not just for the 9 or so horses it was that we, were able to rehome, but for the message that he helped us spread among his, audience that they should consider adoption, because a lot of these horses are in the place they are through no fault of their own. They just need some TLC and some work and health handling.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it ripples, when people see that, they'll do that. And that's what's so cool about it. We had race horses as a kid, and we would, after they got off the track, they would become our roping horses. After that, they became the kids' horses. And after, they just kept having new jobs, and they excelled at every one and just became part of the family. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, we also formed the first and really only of its kind horse rescue coalition, the Homes for Horses Coalition. So there are over 500 members now, all across the United States. But there was no entity to represent them, to bring them together, to help them share best practices and help professionalize them, because a lot of people get into rescue because they love horses and they want to save horses, but they really don't know how to run a rescue as a business. And so we wanted ones that were really doing a great job at that, a forum to show and help others to become more professional in it. So for several years, we hosted an annual conference where we would have speakers come in and share best practices. And like I said, it's really helped to increase the number of horses that the rescue community is able to adopt out.
I love that so much. So if somebody's interested in that, maybe getting some extra education, or maybe they thought about rescuing a horse, they really don't know, how could they find you, or where would they go to find that information?
Well, they can go to our website, humanesociety.org, and just do a search. We have a training program that Carter Ranch Horse puts on. I think you know them. I think you might have had Trevor on your show at one point, if I'm not mistaken. But they, about 5 or 6 years ago, we asked them to put together a training program for horse rescues. So it's mainly a virtual program where they show, they submit videos, the rescues do. And, Trevor talks through the issues that they may be having, and then every month or so, they get together by video to monitor their progress. But the ones that stick with it are invited to a live in-person training clinic. And there's going to be one held in Orlando next month that I'll actually be attending.
Very cool.
But it's like a 2-day hands-on, so that those folks can, put to work what they've learned virtually and refine the skills that they've learned by being there in person with him. So we've helped over 3,000 horses find homes that went through this program over the last several years. And it's been really rewarding to see it grow. And we're always looking for more rescues to participate. So if there are any rescue operators in your viewership here, we'd love to have them join. And the name of the program is Forever Foundation. So you can Google HSUS Forever Foundation.
I love that. Yes, there is. There's a lot of people that rescue horses or want to rescue horses, and they're afraid of the first step is easy, rescuing the horse. The second step is where you walk out the next morning saying, what do I do? I love that you have the part to help it stick. And that's so important.
It's critical.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. I've worked
because otherwise the rescue just becomes a sanctuary. If they don't have the time and the skills to put into that horse to make it adoptable, they turn into a sanctuary, and sanctuaries get filled pretty fast.
Absolutely. And then you never really see the best of the horse. You see the beauty of the horse, but there's so much more inside. I work with so many clients that rescue a horse, and then it's now what, right. and I love that y'all do that. That's from a trainer, that's so important for people to see.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to Pat Parelli real quick, and then we'll go to the Olympics. So we got two more just incredible stories. So I think I saw a picture of you and Pat Parelli with elephants.
Yes.
Or an elephant. So what was that? Can you tell the audience about that?
Sure. Well, at this Black Beauty Ranch that I mentioned in Texas, we have not just equines, but we have several dozen other species. Most of the animals there are from rescue situations, abusive situations. And this one elephant we had named Babe was there. She had been rescued from a roadside zoo or traveling circus, I think it was. And so we gave her a forever home there. And she passed away in 2010. But before that, Pat made a tour of Black Beauty Ranch with us and spent a couple of days with us down there, and he wanted to meet the elephant. He, worked with elephants, not trained them, but been around them in the past, I guess, and wanted to meet Babe. And so I think the picture you're referring to is him and me feeding Babe.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So at the Black Beauty Ranch, is that open for people to go on tour?
It's not open to the public all the time, but we do have days, like a couple of days a year, where it's open for tours. So again, you can just Google HSUS Black Beauty Ranch, and there'll be information there. But it's not like a zoo or even a sanctuary that's open for regular visits, because we want the animals to be able to sort of live, in harmony and peace, and not be, prodded or jeered at or whatever by the public, every day. But we do have tours a couple times a year, and we've got everything from tigers to chimpanzees and a whole bunch of different, farm type animals. Many of them, like I said, rescued from zoos. I think we still have a one-armed kangaroo that was a victim of like a fake boxing operation, kangaroo boxing operation. So it's a really neat place. It's just very moving to be there. And if anyone's interested, I would definitely encourage them to come when it is open to the public.
Sounds great. And if people want to give to the ranch, are they able to do that and help support it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're a 501c3, which means all donations are tax deductible, and there is a place on the site to go for donations.
That's awesome. So and that's in Texas, right? Correct?
Right. Mm-hmm. Murchison, Texas. Outside of Tyler.
Oh, okay. East Texas. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So let's go back. Now we're going to go to the Olympics. So the 2008 Olympics, what was your role in Hong Kong?
Well, you may remember that back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, there were a lot of injuries, rotational falls in eventing, the cross-country section of 3-day eventing. And it got to the point where it was pretty bad, not just for the horses and the riders that were injured or killed, but just for the reputation of the sport in general. And so they had a big summit down in Lexington, Kentucky, and we were invited to attend. Obviously we were very concerned about the equine welfare implications, and we did attend, and encouraged the sport to develop methods of safeguarding their athletes, both equine and human. Things like frangible pins that allow the jumps to break away rather than just have the horse do a rotational fall over them. And so 2008 was the first Olympics where some of these improvements were being put into place. And we were asked if we would like to attend and observe, the games. Of course, you don't have, too much in the way of welfare concerns with jumping and dressage like you do potentially with cross country and the 3-day eventing. So we did go and we did observe and provided some feedback. We did the same thing at the 2010 WEG in Lexington, Kentucky, because that was just 2 years after those Olympics, and there were still things being put into place, still injuries and fatalities, but things gradually being put into place. So we were there, both to monitor and observe, but also to show that, we support the efforts of those progressive folks like David O'Connor and others in the sport who were trying to, improve the welfare of the horses.
It's wonderful. That's wonderful. And it's so good you mentioned his name too, because there are so many leaders like David and like Pat Parelli and that are trying to do the right thing, and it does ripple, we said that earlier, and that's so important.
Yes. Yeah. I believe he was just given a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I wish I could remember the association, but it was well deserved. He was the president of USDF for several years, as well as a, top Olympic level equestrian. And he really did a lot for the association and for the sport, I think.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Scott will be right back with more.
Hi, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, heard on KCAA, Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'd like to talk to you about something I'm very passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. In the morning, afternoon, and even late in the evening, I enjoy a good cup of coffee almost any time of the day. Now, my team at the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show has been working for several months on creating and introducing our own brand of coffee. We wanted to make sure that we got it just right. We don't want to put our name on anything unless we're 100% certain that it's the best product available, and we've finally done it. We have created a wonderful line of coffees, 13 fantastic flavors offered in whole bean, ground, and K-cups, any way you like to brew your coffee. Now, each of our coffees carries our brand, the very same brand that we put on our horses, our trailers, and our chaps. So you know that this is a quality product. And we only use 100% Arabica beans, the very best beans available. Just listen to some of these wonderful blends and flavors. Jamaican Me Crazy, Honduran San Marcos, Chocolate Cherry Amaretto, Breakfast Blend, and my very favorite, Haley's Blend. A coffee so good, we named it after my daughter. You can order these coffees today by going online to cowboyentrepreneur.shop. That's cowboyentrepreneur.shop. And if you order today, you can get an extra 10% off your final purchase just by entering the promo code COWBOY on checkout. Remember, that's promo code COWBOY for an extra 10% off. Just go to cowboyentrepreneur.shop to order your coffee today.
Thank you for listening to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Scott will be right back with more. For more information on Scott Knudsen, the Cowboy Entrepreneur, visit us online at cowboyentrepreneur.com.
So I saw that you do donor trips to
Yes.
Wyoming, Montana. Could you talk? So I guess first, how do you become a donor, and what level does it become where you're going on these cool trips with you? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, we have donors that are, everything from, donate $10 a month on our website to donate millions of dollars. It all depends on, their capacity and their level of passion for the issues, and you can give specifically to our equine program, and the monies donated will be earmarked specifically for those efforts. But those trips that you're talking about were basically, there was a fee to come. You don't have to donate annually at a certain level or whatever, but there was a fee, And part of it was tax deductible because it is a donation to the 501c3, and the rest just covered the expenses of having people at a dude ranch. But there's a great place called 7D Ranch in Cody, Wyoming, and they were our host for those rides, and beautiful mountain scenery in what I think are called the Absaroka. It's spelled Absaroka, but it's pronounced a little differently. Mountains. And so one of the senior members of the family there at 7D was connected to a local group that was doing darting of mares on the McCullough Peaks herd management area, which isn't too far from Cody. These are wild horses that are being managed by a group of volunteer ladies who go out and use a contraceptive drug called PZP, which HSUS happens to hold the EPA registration for. We helped develop the drug. And what it does is makes mares infertile, not permanently, but for a period of time, so that you can control the rate of population growth without having to do removals. And that works in a lot of herd management areas around the country. Doesn't work in all of them. And so, there's other ways of administering the drug to those mares on those other large herd management areas. But anyway, we were treated to a site visit to the McCullough Peaks herd and got to meet some of those darting ladies. And then we also went out to Pryor Mountain in Montana. Some of your viewers may be familiar with The Cloud, a series of documentaries that have been done over the last several decades. And so the Pryor Mountain herd is essentially Cloud's herd. That's where he came from. And a lot of his offspring are there. Beautiful scenery again. Just great to be out in the wild and see these horses in their natural habitat being managed humanely.
That's so cool. The pictures are beautiful, and any horse lover would just love to be horseback with you on there. Just looking at them in their natural environment.
Yeah.
So how do they manage such a large sanctuary? With horses and the land. How do they do that? You said darting, and there's a group of ladies. I think that's already so cool. But how do you manage a large sanctuary like that?
Well, it's actually a federal land herd management area. It's not a sanctuary per se. Okay. There are over 100 of those around the country in the 10 Western states. Some of them are, as I said, just so huge that unfortunately you have to do gathers to get your hands on the horses so that you can inject the mares with this vaccine. But some are smaller and the horses are more accessible. Some of them, the horses are, pretty comfortable with people being around. They don't see us as predators. And so you can actually get out and almost walk amongst them. In fact, one picture I didn't send you was of one of our donors walking sort of within a few hundred yards, maybe only 100 yards of the Pryor Mountain herd. So it's just neat to be out there and know that they're not going to run off. And once you find them now, it's still a big enough herd management area that you have to spend quite a bit of time finding them. But once we did, they were very approachable and not fearful, and just great to be out there. Beautiful country.
How cool of a feeling is it to be 100 yards away from something so majestic?
Yeah.
Not very many humans have been that close to. That's amazing.
That's right. Well, we were really glad to be able to give our donors that experience.
That is awesome. So if somebody's interested in doing something like that, like the once in a lifetime trip, they just go to your website again, right?
Yeah, they could contact me at Kdane, Kdane at humanesociety.org. We don't have any trips planned, but that doesn't mean we couldn't plan one again in the future, especially now that things are opening up again.
Right.
Still in the grip of COVID, but not so much as we were in the last 2 years, right?
Absolutely, man. That's so cool. So you've co-founded a lot of nonprofits. So what's your wisdom on nonprofits? How do you start one, and how do you run one the correct way? That the business part of it seems that's where I think a lot of people struggle.
Yeah. Well, you have to have a really good board, and it can't just be family members, right?
Absolutely.
You want to bring people with different talents and skills and abilities, financial savvy, knowing how to run a nonprofit, governance. It's very important to have an accession plan so that, if you die or whoever the head of the nonprofit is, it doesn't die with them. There's a plan for them, for the nonprofit to continue. But basically treating it, like a business, even though it's not for profit, you want it to be sustainable, and you don't want to run it to the point where it's running into the ground and you're paying out of your pocket to maintain it, to keep
Sure.
it going. And then, a big part of that is finding donors that believe in your cause and care about what you're doing and willing to open their wallets to support it.
That's right.
So
That's right.
whether it's fundraisers, a lot of nonprofits were hit hard during the pandemic because they couldn't have gatherings, they couldn't have galas, where a lot of their fundraising came from. But galas are a great way, to raise funds. Having experiences like our trail ride trips to allow donors who care about your mission get to know you and be in a fun environment, beautiful environment, and have camaraderie with other like-minded individuals, right?
I love it. Yeah, I think that's so smart to set it up the right way, set it up like a business. And that's whenever I'm speaking to somebody about set it up like a business, and then go enjoy it. Because if it's not set up the right way, you won't ever enjoy it. And I think with social media too, it's helped so get the message out to your market. So you can put those horses they're supporting, or you can put out whatever it is, and they can watch it, and that's build that relationship.
Right. And that allows people who couldn't physically get out,
Absolutely.
to your location or to an event, to still be a part of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like those pictures, I can't wait for people to watch the show and just see how incredible it is. And it's just going to make you want to go do it. And it's a powerful medium for sure. So let's talk about some of your nonprofits. What was the first nonprofit you started or created?
Well, I co-founded a nonprofit that was dedicated to the protection and preservation of the Tennessee walking horse and other gaited breeds. So when I moved to Maryland from upstate New York back in 1987, I saw a lot of the abuse firsthand and didn't want to be a part of the industry if I wasn't doing something to help reform it, right?
Right.
But I found it very difficult to do that within the existing breed structures because a lot of them were being run by people who were the problem, frankly, part of the problem. So I and some other like-minded individuals got together and formed the first national group dedicated to not just the protection, but also the promotion of the sound, natural Tennessee walking horse and other gaited breeds. And that just sort of mushroomed into, horse shows, a horse show circuit and clinics and all kinds of things that really helped people who wanted to do it the right way to learn how and then to show off their horses' natural abilities in an environment with a level playing field.
I love that. And Keith, can you explain to the audience, and some will probably know and some might not, what's a gaited horse?
Gaited horses are ones that have a very smooth ride. They're basically doing a 4-beat gait, not a 2-beat gait. So there's no jumping, no bouncing and jarring. Right. The Tennessee walking horse is one of the smoothest breeds. There are others like Paso Finos and Peruvian Pasos and Missouri Foxtrotters and racking horses. And there's even an Icelandic horse that does I think 5 different gaits. But they all have that common denominator of being very smooth to ride.
Yeah, and beautiful to ride too. Just beautiful and smooth. They're just gorgeous animals for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So let's talk about another. What about what's another one maybe that you did lately? Because I know you're involved in so many. I know the audience will benefit from just you talking about your nonprofits and how to fix and how to help. I love that. What's your latest nonprofit?
Well, I was involved in the formation of the Homes for Horses Coalition, which is a nonprofit, although it doesn't bring in any revenue. We're not there to raise money. We don't have any salaried people. It's all volunteers. But it's basically there to help other nonprofits improve and professionalize. And we've got over 500 members that are working every day to rehome horses and put a better foundation on horses and put more of them out into the community.
Keith, that's all so awesome because you're doing it on such a large level. 500 is a big number. But you did that with the, when you rescue a horse, you have the training after, and this is created to help people that start nonprofits to help them after. So I think that's so important to get the second half of the book, so to speak.
Yeah, we really want to help every horse that's able to find a good home, and we want to help the rescues do that. We want to help them strengthen their capacity to do that, and we want to give them the training tools to be able to do it as efficiently and with a good foundation as possible.
I love that, man. I love that so much. So you were a judge in horse shows, and you are. So what's your philosophy? Because I know that's a tough job. It's a tough job. So what's your philosophy for being a judge?
Well, Scott, I got into judging because I was seeing the wrong types of horses being rewarded. A lot of artificiality and gimmicks, and they were being rewarded for what the trainer could do to the horse, not do with the horse, not bring out of the horse. And my philosophy as a judge, particularly when you're talking about particular breeds, right? In this example, gaited breeds, Tennessee Walkers and others, is to reward the horse's natural ability. Now, obviously, a trainer can bring that out, and through a partnership, they can enhance it without force, without pain, without artificial gimmickry or things like that. And that's my feeling of what should be rewarded. You have a standard that rewards the horse, because the goal really should be to improve the breed, right?
Right, absolutely.
You improve the breed through breeding, but if you're breeding horses based on a ribbon or a trophy or an award that was given not because of what the horse could do on its own, but what somebody could do to it, then you're rewarding the training.
Absolutely.
You're not improving the breed. So if you reward the horse's natural ability, each generation is going to get better and better.
Absolutely.
If you don't, then it's going to get worse and worse, because it's going to be horses that are dependent on that gimmickry, that abuse or whatever, breeding to other horses like that. And then you don't have a good foundation anymore. So that's my philosophy, and that's why I got into judging, because I wanted to see the breed improve and the horses that were naturally talented be the ones that were most rewarded.
I love that, man. Once again, you find something that that could be a problem, and you go in and try and fix it, make it better, and that's what every horse person should do. I love that. So what do you see as the future of riders and trainers, owners in the industry, in the horse industry itself?
Well, I think there's a great future for horse ownership, horse riding. I think that COVID has been kind of a double-edged sword in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
There were people, I was just reading an article this week, some people were spending more time with their horses because they couldn't get out and do other things.
Yeah.
Some people were not able to get their horses if they're boarding, at a stable, because there were some limits on their access to their horses. But I think what it has done is increase people's appreciation for the time that they can spend with their horses. And we just need to get more people involved, in the industry.
Absolutely.
And, I know there are groups like American Horse Council and others that are working on that. I know that USEF has got a membership level that I don't think you even have to pay anything for. It's like a spectator level, but you're still part of something, right?
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
means that you're getting information from them about events and things like that. So I think the industry has a great potential to grow and thrive. But it's going to take people coming together and finding new outlets for horses, because there are a lot fewer shows than there were a few years ago. And I don't know that number is ever going to come back to what it once was. So you got to find other outlets, whether it's, judged trail rides or whatever, just new avenues for people to participate with their horses. In fact, for a few years, we were giving grants out to groups that were doing just that within the Tennessee walking horse industry, because we want to encourage the people who are doing it right. So we were giving grants out for people who are doing like gated dressage clinics or timed events or things like that, carriage driving events, just anything that's a little different than just going in the ring and going around in circles in two directions.
Yeah, that's cool that you all are doing grants. So how do we attract new people into the industry? Because I think that's so important to our industry, stay, to keep it vibrant, keep it alive, and new people bring new ideas. We respect our past, but we always want to get better as horsemen and horsewomen. So how do we attract more people?
Like I said, having different types of events, making
Absolutely.
things interesting, doing things out of the box, not relying on the same old ways that we've always done things. And, there are some great programs for like inner city youth around the country that are, popping up all over the country.
Yes,
and that brings in a whole different, group of people to the horse world than otherwise wouldn't have been there. And I think they've been overlooked, and they're going to be part of the future too.
I agree 100%. 100%. And it's happening all over, and it's so fun because there's so much energy and there's so much passion. And they want to learn. And once again, I keep going back to social media, and there's some bad things about it for sure. But the good thing is they can go on your site and learn some of the training tips. There's other people like Pat Corelli, other people that have these opportunities for people to learn that maybe didn't grow up in the dirt and the sand like I did,
Right.
or ride like you did,
Right,
so.
right. One of the things we encourage our rescue partners to do is to invite the public in and give them a chance to get to know a horse before they ever think of owning one. Volunteer, get up close and personal with horses and see if it's something for you. So you don't have to feel intimidated like, oh, I've got to go and learn how to ride right away. You can just get comfortable with the horse, and there's a lot of other things that people can do besides riding horses, like
100% agree.
like therapeutic riding and liberty and all kinds of things that people are starting to explore now.
Yeah, I love that. I'm glad you said that, because you don't have to be a trainer to be in this industry. You'll be a photographer. There's different ways to be in the industry to help the industry.
Right.
And I appreciate you saying that. So
you have a relationship with horses. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'll tell you what, there's nothing better. So what is that plaque back there? It's pretty nice.
This is an award we won last year for a video that we produced. It's the American Horse Publications. They have an annual media awards contest, and we've been, as I said, sponsors of that group and their event for a number of years. And for the last several years, we've submitted entries into the contest in different categories, and we usually place somewhere in there, but I think we've won top prize in 2 or 3 different categories over the years. So we're really proud to be a part of that organization, and it's quite an honor to be a recipient of one of their top awards.
Absolutely.
In fact, last year I was nominated and was a finalist in their Equine Industry Vision Award, and I've been nominated again this year. So we'll see how that works out at their event, but that was really an honor.
That's a big deal, Keith. Congratulations on that. I'm a member of them as well. I really support what they do, and the journalism part, the photography part, and how they promote our industry is wonderful. But to be in the running for the Vision Award, that's a big deal.
I agree. It was a real honor.
Yeah, heck yeah. So we were talking a little bit earlier before we started the show about Briar and the Briar horses and everything Stephanie and her team does. Would you mind showing everyone who's watching the show today what's on your desk from Briar?
Yeah, sure. So let me just back up and preface this a bit.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, that's great.
For many years as a kid growing up, I lifted Briar horses, as I'm sure many of your viewers did. And even though I knew that there was something wrong with what we call the big lick or the high stepping Tennessee walking horses, I collected them. In fact, I still have some of the models here in box in my office. But several years ago, Briar decided not to produce that artificial, high stepping Tennessee walking horse model anymore. And now they've got one. This is a plastic green one. And it was, I think it was labeled Under the Sea because it was around the time of The Little Mermaid. But anyway, you probably know when they make a model, they can change the color and the material that it's made of and everything over the years. But this is their new Tennessee walking horse. Gorgeous. It's the natural flat-shod Tennessee walking horse.
So gorgeous.
And, Briar has really been quietly behind the scenes, sort of a strong advocate for equine welfare. not only did they make this change in terms of the model that they used, but they've been a donor to US through their BriarFest event. They have an auction that raises funds for nonprofits, and they've been a regular donor to that. And we're really grateful to Tony and Stephanie.
Yeah, Stephanie does such a great job, with Briar and her whole team. And, when we mentioned the Briar Horses or American Horse Publications, American Horse Council, there's so many great groups within our industry that are supporting us and also leading some of the industry to, leading the industry in the right way.
That's right. And Briar has really probably brought as many horse people into the industry as just
Absolutely. Absolutely.
These kids get into collecting and then they say, I want to have a horse. And that's, their first taste of any connection with a horse, right?
Yeah. And you've done some things with BriarFest as well, I think is what you said. And that's so cool. They have the live horses there, the live breeds, they have the model horses, and kids get to see horses they've played with, for the last 2 or 3 years. And now they're alive. And they have, like you say, they've brought so many people into the industry.
Yes. Yeah. They do a great job.
They do. I can tell you my daughter has several, which is wonderful. Which is wonderful. So what's next for you? What's next for the Humane Society of the United States?
Well, like I said, we're starting to open up again and go to more conferences and events. And, we're still trying to get these federal bills passed. That's my top priority right now. And we're going to keep at it until we succeed. A lot of what we do is just, taking care of animals when they're in need. We have an animal rescue team. We've done some really...
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express.